recording.
Thank you. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi.
This is a subcommittee of the Needham Human Rights Committee. We're here to discuss the discrimination complaint process that we're trying to enact for the town of Needham. I'm Tina Burgos, chair of the HRC. Katie, do we have anybody on?
We do not.
Okay, just a quick introduction. Marlene.
Marlene Schultz. Do I have to say anything else? Just my name? Okay.
Julie.
Julie Venables.
Okay, great, thanks. So I have not yet met with town council, so that piece is going to be outstanding for this meeting. We just have to figure out the scheduling on that. But Julie, thank you for sending the complaint form.
Yeah, no
Do you guys
problem.
want to start off by going over that?
Sure.
So for what I did for it is I just kind of combined some of the ones we liked, like the stuff that I thought kind of sounded better from the different towns. And I tried to incorporate the stuff we've talked about as far as timelines, like that we would have somebody, I think we decided on 48 hours, right? That somebody would answer within 48 hours, that kind of thing. So I tried to incorporate all that stuff we talked about. Obviously there might be things missing, but
I think it looks really good. Can I tell you a few edits or questions I have?
sure, yeah, absolutely.
So in the very first paragraph, the last sentence, please note that the Needham Human Rights Committee can only investigate alleged discriminatory acts that occurred within 180 days of the date that the complaint is signed. I wasn't sure if it should say signed and submitted or just signed, because they can sign it and not submit it, and then,
Right.
then we're up a creek, right?
Yeah, I wonder if it should it even say occurred, because that's what we had actually originally talked about.
Well, didn't we talk about 100, my memory is, did we talk about 180 days from the date of the alleged incident?
I think so.
Or was
Yeah,
it 180 days from the time that the form was submitted to HRC?
I think the way
Or
we were
what makes
talking
more
about it
sense?
last time was when the incident occurred, but I don't know which one makes more sense. I mean, I think if somebody doesn't come forward for 6 months and then they get like another 6 months, that sort of defeats the purpose of this timeline. So maybe it should be when the incident occurred.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. What did the other towns have? Do you remember, Julie?
This one, so this paragraph, I kind of, sorry, I feel like my lighting is really bad here. This was Cambridge. This was pretty similar to Cambridge wording with the signed. I don't know.
So I have that other one that from Margaret Ryan.
Let me see if I can pull that up
Let
quickly.
me see if I can find that. Thought I had it on my. Let's see where that is.
I definitely.
Yeah, incident form. This is just called Community Incident Reports Motivated by Hate and Bias. This is from Marion Ryan, the district attorney.
Mhm.
And it says date of incident, time of incident, incident location, type of incident, victim, witness. This is interesting. Was incident reported to police? Who reported the incident? Let me see.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if we wanted to do that. Some of them had were any other agencies involved so far? I don't know if we feel like we need that. We can add that field.
Okay, so this doesn't have that information that I was looking for. I just happen to have that on my desktop, along with a few other things on my desktop. Okay, there you guys are. I guess I would, before we make a definitive decision, I'd like to just take a look at a few others, or Julie, if you would take a look.
Yeah, no, I can do that. I'll make a note.
So we know how the best way to state that.
I'll look it and I can just email you guys and make that change easily.
Okay.
And the other, can
Go
I
ahead,
finish?
Marlene, sorry.
Or-
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, so then just the other, it's very small, but on the last page, where you have demographic information,
Yeah.
ethnic is not spelled correctly.
Oh, geez, that's not good.
ETHNIC.
Yeah, I see that.
And then on the bottom where it asks for signature, complainant is not spelled correctly.
Okay.
And then I was wondering if we should put how to submit the form. It doesn't say, I mean, I get the feeling this is if this is done through email. But
Yeah, so I guess that's what I was envisioning, was this would be online and then there would be like a submit button, but we should probably have paper copies available at town hall.
right,
But also, if anybody has any questions filling out the form, we
Mhm.
probably do want to list
Who to contact.
our contact. And I would assume that would be our Gmail account,
yeah.
or do we want to set something up separately for this?
Unless we have a phone, we end up getting a phone line.
We probably should have a separate email because it's going to be, if we're going to rotate who's looking at it,
Well, we
it
can
might
all,
be easier to keep it separate, right?
I don't know, we don't get that many emails in the Gmail.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I don't think we need another one, but.
Is it
you
Needham
agree,
HRC? Is
Tina?
that right?
It's needham.hrc@gmail.com. I know there was a conversation about a telephone number. Should we try to figure that out?
Yeah, if the town would give us a phone, I guess. Katie, is that something that you could find out for us? Is that possible?
Almost like a hotline.
We could certainly explore options. I guess, are you asking for just a dedicated phone number or a phone itself? We could
No,
look
I
at
think-
Google line or,
I think a dedicated phone number, and then I think what they do in Arlington is that whoever is on deck to take them, or maybe this is Belmont, they have that number, you can have it go directly to your own phone. So like if I have it for, say I do this for 3 months and then Julie does it for 3 months. So I take it off and then Julie takes it onto hers, or, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't.
I think
So-
you should be able to do that with Google.
Yeah.
I can talk to IT about what some options are.
I think that would be good. There's also, so I would have on here that it can be submitted by email and with the information, or by mail, I guess, regular mail. Not everybody
Yeah.
has email, or
Right.
some people may prefer not to use email because they want it more private. I mean, I don't know.
Yep.
So they
I
can,
guess we'll have to,
you can just send it to town hall, right? That's the,
yeah, we would have to see. I don't know, Katie, who we
yeah,
would,
what address would we use?
attention or what, yeah, what office or,
Who would, I mean, I would have said in the past, it's Sandy. I just heard that Sandy's retiring.
She is, yeah, at the end of June. So I think if it's made attention to Human Rights Committee at this point, that would probably, it would go to the town manager's office or to me, since I'm your liaison. So we could talk about logistically what.
So
how to-
just, yeah, just Human Rights Committee,
town hall.
Town Hall, Needham, and then you just write Town Hall, or do you have an address?
It's 1471 Highland Ave.
Okay. Or someone could drop it off. I mean, there, all kinds of options.
yeah. Would it be the town manager's office if they were to drop it off?
Yeah, I would just have them address it to HRC, just so we
Okay.
would know how to.
Okay, I'll
triage.
do that too.
Okay, that's all I had. Tina, I don't know what you.
Well, you had mentioned, Julie, a question about whether or not other departments or other organizations had been contacted. I sort of think that might be a good idea.
Okay.
How do you guys feel about that?
I saw it on probably half of the forms I looked at, not all of them. I think you're probably right. It makes sense. It could be something we ask as part of the information gathering.
Right.
So it doesn't necessarily need to be here, but it wouldn't hurt either.
Right. And I would like us to have an option that if someone calls in, that we could fill this out for someone if they weren't comfortable filling it out.
Mhm.
But we would use this form also. But yeah, I think who they've contacted would be good, because then you can, when you ask them, you can find out, well, what did you learn from them? And,
Yeah.
you know, how did they help
Okay.
you? What did they say?
I'll add that in as well. Just like, have any other agencies been contacted in regards to this incident?
Yeah, I think, should I go back to that one? Of course, I closed it out.
I remember seeing that on one of them.
Let's see. This is really, it's interesting that they call this, they say victim witness. We're just calling complainant, which I think is better. And do we have incident location?
Yeah, well, I have name of, in the respondent section, I have name of individual, name of business if applicable. So I guess that's not
I
quite.
guess they would, where they summarize the incident,
Yeah.
that would do it. So this says, was incident reported to other organization, list organization, and then was incident reported to police, and then contact person and who reported it.
You think that should be two separate questions or together?
No, I think it can just be
The same.
What do you, I don't know, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree.
So that makes sense.
Okay. It's good. I like that you put the seal on it, the town seal.
Just was trying to make it look official.
And do you guys think 48 hours is enough time? I mean, we want it to be relatively rapid.
Mhm.
And
Well,
I know
it
we had
says-
talked about 48 hours because of weekends or a holiday weekend or whatever the case may be. Do we feel like that's going to give us enough time to properly respond?
Well, I think what she said is should expect a response. So it doesn't mean.
We will absolutely hit that deadline.
Right.
It
I was
just-
trying to keep that stuff a little bit less
Yeah, I thought the wording was
exact.
good.
Okay.
So that way, you know, well, we said about 48. Okay. So
Right, if it happens to be a holiday weekend or something, like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Now, remember, this is going to go to our committee for more
Right.
editing once we're ready. Then it's going to go to the select board, right? Or town
The
council.
whole,
So, you know,
got to go to town council. It's got to go to the board.
yeah. So, you know what I would suggest that you do, Julie, at the top, if you can just write draft.
Sure,
You
yeah,
know,
that makes sense.
put or draft across it, just so until it's
Yep.
finalized.
Makes sense.
And then the other thing that I would do, because I like this on all documents, very small on the last page is just the date that it was
Oh, yeah,
adopted.
I can do that. You can do that in the footer even.
Yeah, just like adopted and, you know, I mean, you could put today's date. We aren't really adopting it, but
Right.
just the placeholder.
Sure.
I think it's really helpful. Like in 5 years, someone will say, oh, maybe we need to update this. You know, they
Right.
did this in 2021.
Yeah, I think this looks great.
Yeah, it's really very good, very helpful.
Okay, so we're, I know we talked about it at the meeting, about the meeting with Chief Schlittler. Were there any other details or any other things that, I know Belinda's gonna follow up on his behalf if he doesn't have time to reach out to the other contacts he has in Natick. I think you guys said Natick and Arlington. But
Yeah.
are there any other things that you kind of took away from the meeting that would be helpful for us to just know here or discuss?
Well, I think that after the committee approves the things before, maybe simultaneously when it goes to the select board, to have him take a look at it, just to get his input. I think that would be respectful, and I think he has good ideas. So, you know, and if he says this is great, then I think that's good too. But I don't think there's anything.
Was there anything in sort of particular that any advice or anything that he really wanted wanted us to be aware of or pay particular attention to as we're going through the process?
Well, he wants to make sure that we don't get involved in anything that might be criminal.
Right.
So that was really a very strong piece from him. And also for us to understand that if there is something going on that is criminal, and if they don't share it with us, it's because it's under investigation and they can't give out more information. So I think we have to just understand, and I totally respect that. Because we did say that, Belinda hasn't really brought much. When you ask for her report, she hasn't really brought much, and he always brought much more, as did John, the guy Kramer. Thank you. And then he started talking about stuff. So I think he was going to maybe talk to Belinda. I mean, one of the things that he said that was very interesting, if you listen to the report before the select board, the EJN had around policing, and they had all these statistics and everything. And he said, I guess they need to do a better job reporting, but some of the statistics, I mean, some of these issues are mental health issues. So there needs to be a different way to report those issues, which is why I think there's this push, what I think is a good push across the country to, I don't think it's defund the police. I think it's just
bad. That's a bad way to put it.
It is a bad way to put it. I agree with you.
I hate that, but it's
I
to
do
take
too.
the resources and put them in other places. I just read about, I think Ithaca, New York did you guys read about Ithaca? They're like the new model. And they're not calling it police. I forget, public safety and something they're calling it, but they're going to be like two groups. One is more just a mental health group, no guns, and they're going to go out and investigate those kinds of things. And then there's
Those are police officers?
Well, I don't know. I think they're going to be mental health counselors.
Okay.
Trained mental health counselors, but they'll be part of the public safety. Yeah, and then there'll be, there's a shooting. Well, then the police officer goes out.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the more progressive towns that's really trying to do something. And they say, the article I read said, they thought it could be a model for the rest of the country, and that they had really taken it seriously. And then they listed a few other, I don't know where I read the article, but maybe it was in the New York Times. I can't remember. So anyway, that's a very long answer to your question, Tina. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I mean, I think because as I had mentioned, I spoke with him as well. And I do appreciate, Marlene, that when we were having the conversation about policing, that Jen had brought up the forum and discussing with the community, you were very, very smart in saying, let's not, the police, they do very good things here. And the reason why we live here and the reason why we feel safe here is in large part due to the Needham Police Department. Because I think that conversation can devolve very, very quickly. And what will then happen is that we would not be able to do things like develop a discrimination complaint process because, I think he had mentioned to you guys, as Cynthia was saying, there was a conversation about trust.
Right.
I just think that that's something that we, with the political climate that's happening right now, they don't always want to feel like they are on the defensive, nor should they be. So I appreciate that your tone in addressing that concern, because I think the more that they feel like they're being attacked, the less effective ultimately we are going to be.
That's right. It's, yeah, relationship building. And yeah, I don't want to throw them under the bus. I mean, everybody can do better. You know, we can do a lot better
Yeah.
than what we're doing. But I think their heart is in the right place. And, you know, they're good people, and they're, you know, yeah. And I was just appalled. I don't know if we said this in the meeting, but he told us that they have been verbally abused by citizens. Did I say
Yeah.
that? I mean, it was horrible, and threatened.
Yeah.
And their families threatened.
He told me the same thing.
And I mean, I know this is public, so I guess it's okay to put, but I mean, I just think that's absolutely horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in a time when the police officers came into the schools and the police were your friends. You know, that's that's what I learned. So anyway, that was awful.
I mean, they also do quite a bit of community work, and I had mentioned this to him, and I said, well, why isn't that more public facing? And he's, well, first of all, that's sort of not, we're not sort of this congratulatory body, but also he said, it's a small community and people might be able to piece together, who needed the help or where the outreach went. And that's private information. There's some individuals and families that just don't want people to know that they need the extra help. And then he was also talking about the misinformation. He said, one of the things about the statistics on the BIPOC community here and the residents here, people don't realize Needham it's a thoroughfare. So when we're stopping people for traffic violations, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's somebody that lives here, and they're not taking that number into consideration. So many people come here to work, whether it's in the N2 district, the hospital. A lot of people that come to Needham they're not necessarily residents here, and that doesn't necessarily represent the data that was necessarily being put forth.
But I disagree with that, because Arlington was the same, and I mean, it was sort of like driving while black, and who gets stopped. So I actually think the statistics are very important. It doesn't matter if they live here or not. If more people of BIPOC are being stopped, why is that? So I have a different view of that.
Yeah, well, I think the statistic was sort of like, I agree with that, but it was kind of in relation to the BIPOC, comparing it to the BIPOC percentage in
Population, right?
Yeah, which may skew.
I see. Then that skews it.
You're skewing it, right? Because there may be more BIPOC traveling through the town of Needham for various reasons versus the percentage that actually lives here.
Right. I mean, I think you're right, Tina. They could have more sort of press about positive things, because he may have told you this, but he told us this story about, it was really a mental health issue, a kid who was out of control, and they sent the officer with Rocket, the dog, and Rocket really helped the kid. And then they took the kid to a hospital, and there were other kids also who, not Needham kids, who were also, I guess, in this emergency room or wherever it was. And the dog was a comfort to all these kids. I mean, and it seemed to calm down all these, these kids who had escalated. I just thought that was wonderful. And so those are the stories that we don't hear. And
that's correct. And
I wonder, why, I understand you wouldn't want to in any way identify who that is, because that's a personal thing, but it's good PR for them. I don't know that it's our job to tell them that they need better PR, but I mean, they do good stuff. So
I agree.
I wanted to talk about the training, what
yes.
my feelings are about the training. I don't, Tina, you sound like you were going to say something. So just
no, go ahead. Let's talk. I think that's more pressing than my it was more of like a follow-up, but let's talk about the training.
So I did a lot of research on training. I reached out to a bunch of groups, and I went to MCAD, and I may have sent you a link. The MCAD trainings are really not appropriate for us. They're really for things that we wouldn't be looking into, at a higher level, that were more difficult. Most of the other places have not had any specific training. And I know that I was not trained in the complaint process. I was trained in the conciliation, which was because Cambridge is like MCAD. They have the same amount of power, so I could do that piece. And I think that we have people on our committee who could easily, we've already been doing this, take these complaints. We could pull together a small group of us, discuss how we've handled them, put together some guidelines, and then we talked about having some people, not everybody on the committee, do this work. I'm very comfortable doing this work. I'm sure Amelia is. I think Cynthia probably would be. I don't know who else, but I think, so I don't know that we need a trainer. Belmont has never had anybody, and they do a lot of, they have their own phone, and they have a lot of the complaints come over the phone. That's how they get most of theirs. And they start the process and assign it that way. So I know we have been talking a lot about a trainer, but I don't know the level that we are, that we really, I don't know exactly what, it's just being able to listen to somebody, take down the information, try to be as objective and also empathetic with the person as they're presenting, even if you think they're crazy, I have a social work background. It's like second nature to me to kind of interview somebody.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of that?
I think that makes sense. I think, sorry, Tina, do you?
No, go ahead, Julie.
Okay. As long as we had discussed that you and maybe Amelia or whoever's like the more senior person of the knowing how to do this was present, for instance, in my first conciliation or my first few, that would make me, with no training and background in it, feel comfortable as long as I had one of you present with me. Even with the training from you, I would still want to know that like somebody was going to be there for the first few at least. So if we can be sure that we have that kind of buddy system for the first however long that the new people are doing it, then I think for me at least, I would feel comfortable.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and we had talked, Marlene, that was something that you had mentioned in the very initial stages of this, planning this out. So what would we, so you were talking about putting together guidelines. What would it?
It's really not, it's really like, make sure you have all the information, listen to the person. You're not there to solve it. You are, it's really fact finding. Let the person know, when you expect to get back to them. Some of these processes, I think we're only talking about the 48 hours after they have submitted a complaint. Some towns, and Julie, I don't know if you looked at this, I think they say, that we'll try to do a resolution within such time. We haven't done that. I don't know if we want to do that, but to let the people know the process, it's just sort of common sense if you know how to listen to someone. And then you would, and then remember, we're going to bring it back to the committee to say, does this sound like it's a human rights violation? And then it's very possible that the committee, so this can take several months. This is not going to necessarily, it's not going to get resolved immediately. The committee might say, well, we're not sure. What about this, this, and this? Because maybe when you got the information, you didn't get all the information. Maybe you didn't think of every question, and that's okay. I'm just saying that we could put something together. I don't even know if we need to, but I just thought it would maybe make people feel better, especially so the select board.
Yeah, Yeah, I think just having that documentation is probably important for,
Yeah, they're gonna want to see that. And I think also, I think in those sort of guidelines or this list of common sense rules, setting expectations, because that's another thing that I am concerned about, that we over promise, especially for people who are not experienced in handling these types of issues. As you said, we're not here to necessarily resolve, right? We're not here to, it's fact finding, it's investigation. And that's
We may have a resolution. I mean, we may
right.
be able to find out, oh, you thought this was happening, but we went back and this is what we learned. Is that helpful to you? No, it's not. You know, or yes, it is. That's good. I had no idea. Or we can refer people to the right places. I mean, there's a lot of different things that we can do. I mean, if it's a housing issue, you know, the neighbors are noisy and nobody's doing anything for me and I can't sleep. And so then we could contact the housing authority and say what's being done, or ask them what, if they've, you know, what they've done, or maybe the person went to the housing authority and why they weren't satisfied with the response they got. I mean, the other possibility is to have, or additional, is to think about different people developing relationships with different places where we may get complaints. So somebody with the school, somebody with the housing authority, and maybe somebody with the business association. And so that's how we did it in Arlington. So like there was this one guy who was very involved with the schools. He was just, you know, a human rights committee member. But anytime there was a school thing, he was on it, plus somebody else would volunteer. So he already had developed a relationship with the schools and they trusted him and knew him well. So that's another possibility for us, if we have enough people who are willing to do the work. You know, as we see, there's just a few of us continuing to do the work.
I think it would be great to have a combination of both. Because that was part of the initial thought process, was taking a holistic approach to this. So when you're talking about, Julie, the question on, have you contacted other agencies? Well, it makes sense that we have a relationship with the school board, the school committee, the business community, the housing authority, the religious, the interfaith group. You know, I think the more resources that we have on hand, the better equipped we will be able to assist in these cases.
Well, and we're supposed to have that representation actually on the committee. So Cynthia is clergy, and we were supposed to have somebody from the schools. I mean, Dan, Tina, I don't know if you were on, Dan used to come to our meetings for a while.
Okay.
Julie, I know you were there when Dan came, right?
yeah.
Superintendent. And we were supposed to have, if you look at who it says we're supposed to have, representation from these different groups. The realtors, we've never been able to get a realtor. Housing authority has just been really difficult for us to get somebody from there.
Do you know why that is?
Well, we've had a couple people. One, we had this wonderful woman, and then it was very sad. She wasn't on very long and she died. The second person we had was also good, but then she became president of the Tenants Association and she just didn't have time. So, and not everybody has transportation, but I know Cynthia was willing to pick people up. So, and I think there is that woman who's come to the meetings who's interested when we have an opening. Renaz is her name. I forgot her last name, but she's a new immigrant and lives in the housing authority.
Okay.
So, and I had reached out over the years to realtors and could never find anybody.
Commercial, commercial, residential.
Well, I think there was a Realtors Association, and at the time it was Louise Condon was the president, and I reached out to her and, no one came forward. I mean, right now the realtors are probably so busy they don't have time to do
Oh my
anything
gosh.
else.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think that we should propose that it's a combination of setting up these guidelines. You know, I think we can sort of do an informal training amongst ourselves, but I think we will need that documentation for the select board. And then see if there's any way that we can reestablish some of these relationships. Because that was actually the next question I had, was reaching out to some of these other organizations to see how we can pull them in, because again, the more people that we have to help out, you know, there's certain things like I can help out with the business community. I know nothing about the housing authority, right? So I think that's something that we should incorporate.
I think that's a good idea. The housing authority has changed. I think it's now, we're merged. Katie, do you know that it's not just Needham? Is it Needham and Wellesley now or something?
No, I have not heard of any merger.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong. For some reason, I thought it was us with another town now.
I'll put together, I'll add to the slide deck, the guidelines and get into more detail about the guidelines and the relationships that we're trying to hopefully establish for this.
Good.
What do you guys think when do you guys think that we should show the draft to the group?
Well,
how much more do you think we need to build on?
I think we could do it in June, don't
Yeah,
you?
I think we should send it
feel
out.
like
Maybe
it's-
you can send it
okay.
out a couple days ahead, because otherwise
Okay.
we won't talk about it again till the fall.
And is there a big agenda, do you think, for June? I know it's not.
We didn't get to the discrimination complaint, the general, we didn't get to the general statement of condemnation. We may talk about the policing forum if Jen and I can kind of work out schedules. And that's all I have right now.
Oh, and then that other thing that I sent you about the native land, right? Isn't that
Yeah.
about, I forgot what, I just saw Cynthia said that NDI endorsed it or adopted it or whatever.
Okay.
Did you see, I sent you
Yeah.
the response from Marianne. I don't know if Marianne's going to come present it, or I'm not sure. Did you just read it, right? I don't know if I should
Yeah.
get back to Marianne and ask her to come. But one thing I wanted to say that my understanding in the past, and maybe you have a different interpretation, is that public participation is for anybody who just happens to come. But when somebody's on the agenda, that's different than public participation. So that when they're an agenda item, then they speak when their time comes up.
Oh, okay.
That's my understanding of it, but that's the way we used to do it. So
Make it a separate agenda item.
well, public participation is like, is there anybody there who has anything to say? Like that was that woman who introduced herself. I mean, people may or may not want to introduce themselves. And then like you had that guy, what was his name, who presented about the legalizing the psychedelics. So I think you had him in public participation, but I thought that was an agenda
A
item.
separate item. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the way we always used to do it. But you know, I didn't know if
That's
you
fine. It makes more sense. So
had
that's
a
fine.
different interpretation of that.
That makes more sense. Micah was his name.
Yeah. So I mean, so if somebody comes to present that, that would not be public, the native lands thing, that wouldn't be public participation. That would just be an agenda item.
Okay.
And usually try to put those at the top of the agenda so they can leave.
Exactly.
After public participation, if possible, you know.
Okay, good. So I'll put together I'll rework the deck to add these. Julie, you'll make the edits to the, and then
Yeah.
can we send out, do you think we should send out the process deck and the form? Is that too much for people to kind of handle in one meeting?
No, I think they go hand in hand.
Okay, so we'll send out all of that documentation for the June meeting. And then we can start getting some initial feedback on it. And hopefully by then I'll also have had some conversations with town council to see specifically what, what their concerns are and what we really need to be looking out for.
Well, do you guys, should we take a look at them I don't mean as a meeting, but can you just send them to us? And if there are any comments or edits, we could just look at them before you send them out to the community.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, because I have to make some edits anyway. So yeah.
Julie,
I should be able, yeah, I can make the edits to this form very soon. So we should be able to do that in a timely fashion.
that's great.
So, and then also following up with, do you want me to do that or do you want to do that? Follow up with either Belinda or
Mhm.
Chief Schlittler, Marlene, since you guys were in the conversation.
Oh, I thought, you mean about the form? I thought after the committee. Is that what you mean?
No, he was going to, I think he was going to try to talk to, just to get some feedback from him. I'm wondering if I should send the draft to him as well, because I thought he was going to, wasn't he going to talk to a
yeah,
couple
he
of
was, but I thought that Amelia was going to follow up with him on that.
Okay, I'll talk to her about that.
But I thought that we shouldn't send him the form until after it's gone to the committee.
That's correct.
Because the committee may see stuff. We should catch our own errors or make it as good as we can before we send it out.
Yeah.
My feeling. I'm sure there'll be a lot of comment, but.
Okay. Are we missing anything else?
I think so.
I don't think on this. I do want to appreciate how much you're doing on Juneteenth, and I'm sorry that you're doing this alone.
Yeah, thank you.
I feel so bad. I made an assumption.
Totally fine. What gave you the clue? Like the emails that you guys were getting at 1 a.m? Totally fine.
You're working really hard on it.
That's fine. I don't, honestly, it doesn't. I'm up anyway. I'd be watching stupid TV. So
And I said I was going to send you a list, but then I thought you had the list from somebody else of like who it should be distributed to. Like, Cindy Gonzalez will send it to town people, but I think it's really important that it goes out to the schools, maybe to the PTCs. And I would think Carrie has a connection there. Did you want me still to send you a list? I think.
Yeah, I was. So what I was going to do after tonight's event or early tomorrow morning was just send basically an email. All people have to do is forward it to all of their contacts. You don't have to, it's going to explain it. It's going to have the save the date attachment. It's going to have a link to our Facebook page. So everything is wrapped up in a nice, neat little package. And it just, I'll put some text in there. So it just has to be sent out to everybody. There's been a lot of back and forth. So I don't know, maybe it's just easier if people send it to their own contacts.
Yeah, but that's not enough. I mean, it needs to go besides our Facebook page, like EJN, Progressive
Right.
Needham, those kind of places.
Right. So I think like we have our group, right? So I'll send it to the Rebecca Young, Rebecca Drill, Ramin folks at NDI.
And
I guess
I'll send out to At My Neighbor's Table because that's my group. But I want to make sure it gets the wider, like the schools. I mean, I don't know, would we send it to Dan and ask him to distribute it? I don't think you go to the superintendent.
Does he have a administrative
Katie, do you know?
assistant?
Yeah, we can share it with Joyce, his executive assistant. I can ask Cindy to include it in when she shares it with staff, just to share it over with the superintendent's office, and then he can decide on the school side.
Great.
I mean, because we want it to be shared widely. So like Center at the Heights, they have
It's a good one.
big distribution, housing authority. I mean, all those town groups.
I was gonna also send it to Denise Garlick's office.
And Becca Roush.
Becca
and Mike-
Roush,
and
yeah.
we always forget Mike Rush and Mike Rush.
yeah.
I mean, I forget him too. I think that's great.
Okay, well, if you could just maybe just send me the list just in case, so just to make sure we're not missing anybody.
Yeah, we should have a list. I mean, we don't.
That would be a good thing to put on that drive that
I
Carrie's
think-
talking about.
I think
Yep.
Amelia has, maybe it's just in her head, but she has done lots of publicity for us. So I thought she sent something to you that looked fairly comprehensive today, maybe in an email.
Okay, I'll take a look. She had some so one of the things that she had sent me was for an action item for Juneteenth was research organizations in Needham that deal with issues of equality. And so she had listed a few, and then in parentheses, please continue to add if you have anything else. So I don't know if that's what you were thinking about.
Maybe, yeah, maybe it wasn't the distribution that I was thinking about. I mean, we wanted to go into, and Katie, maybe you can answer this. Does Cindy send stuff to Hometown Weekly and the Needham Times?
She does. We just have to, if you explicitly want it sent there, I would just make sure, I'll tell her that.
So
Yeah, she has a press list that she sends to.
okay, because I think that we want that also.
Yeah.
Oh, and like
Okay.
the Gloria Grice at the History Center and the Clergy Association. I mean, okay, I'll work on I'll work on a list. I'm gonna actually ask Amelia if we can collaborate on a list, because she'll do stuff that I'll forget about.
Okay, yeah, that's great.
I'll email
That's
her.
great.
Okay.
And yeah, then that would be perfect to put on the drive.
Yeah.
That everybody has access to and can add to, or, if organizations become defunct, we can take up, remove. So that's great. I think that's a good idea. So yeah, I will work on that.
Great.
Anything else? No. Okay, so I'll work on my edits. Julie, you have yours. Marlene, you're gonna work on the list. I will send my piece out a few days before our next meeting, just so people, it's a lot to kind of go through. And then hopefully, we'll have some good discussion around it at our next meeting.
Yeah.
Great.
Is that good?
That sounds great. So
Okay.
hopefully I'll see you all at 5:30.
Yeah, we'll see you guys later.
See you another time.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.